stock
more.
market has had 12 days in a row up.
Yeah,
It will probably go down today.
I'm reading about that.
Yep, raised it for the 11th time,
Wow.
quarter point.
Thought they sort of stabilized the inflation.
Yeah, yeah,
No? Is that a lie? Is that a lie?
the economists are all over the map on that. So, I mean, yes, it making it difficult to buy a home and mortgages and car rates, which are all high. If controlling that's good, but the groceries, no, hasn't affected the groceries. Labor rates are above the average, so it's not affecting that. And then we have the lowest unemployment we've had in 40 years, and so it's not, because what the Fed chairman wanted was he wanted 2 million people out of work. He wanted to shut down jobs, bring that down, bring the cost of all that down, inflation 2%. Almost no economist believes we'll ever see that. 3% is where we're at, probably somewhere between 3 and 2, maybe. But to get to below 2%, like we had for the year. There's too many other things. The other thing that is causing, I probably read the New York Times last morning, I finally understood why there's reasons to believe that a recession could come. Because raising the rates for 18 months has increased the cost of lending. And so the banks are tight. That's, we already saw that earlier this year. And so the reality is the debt levels are growing because interest rates are higher, including the national debt. And the value of the dollar is now down 1%. So we may get to a recession because of the financial needs. Oh, at some point it just started to shut down.
Yeah. I just want housing market. Just so that I can afford to buy a house.
Well, we're seeing housing prices drop around the country.
Well, I know, I saw in El Paso, they were offering, to counter the high interest, they were offering some discounts to some home buyers. Whereas before, they wouldn't even offer any.
No, because we can do it.
Yeah.
Well, the other side of it is the population is growing in some areas. Overall, U.S. population is actually pretty flat. In fact, more people died in the last 2 years of COVID, so probably immigration is kind of low. So, yeah, I'm really sure we're always housing should come down. We also have the problem that 1 in 4 people in Massachusetts pay for their house in cash. Because 1 in 4 people have money.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, that's what was
And
helping.
council's getting some of the same stuff too.
Yeah. Because you could sell your house in California and then buy 2 or 3 houses.
And people are bailing out of California. And there's a lot of people watching the maps. So I'm surprised that people are still going to Florida because Florida's not going to make it.
I was gonna say,
They're
like.
not going to make it. They're not going to make it. They're not going to make it.
Yeah, it's.
People are squeegee in downtown Miami every day because of the water.
Hi, how are you, ladies? Good, how are you? I'm good, thank you.
My
Running in. Hi, how are you all?
Hello.
Hey, honey.
How are you?
Good. I know, happy belated birthday.
Happy belated birthday to you too.
How are you?
Good.
Lu-
And Trustee Powie. Trustee Powie, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. I just had to unmute. I'm sorry. I had to run out to my car.
No, you're good. You're good. All right. So then, I think we can get started here. Good evening.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Almost.
Almost, yeah. Welcome to the regular meeting of the South Central Regional Transit District. Today is July 26th, 2023. It is 1:35 p.m. This session is now in order. If you can please rise and join us for the pledge. Mayor Barraza, if you can lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if I can have a roll call, please.
Javier Perea,
Present.
Nora Barraza,
Here?
Meiji Powie,
Yes, I'm here.
Yvonne Flores, absent. Manuel Sanchez,
Present.
Diana Murillo, absent. Robert Martinez, absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item number 4, under approval of the agenda. At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda order.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda. Mayor Barraza?
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza to approve the agenda order. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. Any discussion on the agenda order? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries unanimously. The agenda order has been approved. Going on to item number 5, public input. Do we have any public input? All right, seeing and hearing none. Item number 6, approval of the SCRTD meeting minutes of June 28th, 2023.
Mr. Chair,
Madam
Mayor
Mayor?
Barraza makes a motion we approve the minutes.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. Discussion on the minutes? The only thing I have, well, did the counselor from Sunland Park show up?
Yes, she did. Is that a correction? She came in late.
It was too late? It was kind of late? Okay,
For roll call, I know she was not present,
okay.
but I think
Yeah,
in
no,
the minutes
okay.
it
Under the
stated.
minutes, yeah, under 9. Okay.
Chair Perea,
Yes,
I did notice that in the meeting minutes, it is not noted that after we had come out of closed session, that we did vote and approve a salary action or the actions for Mr. Armijo. So I don't know if we need to just make that amendment. or how
Mr.
we-
Chair, I
how
would
we wanna do that.
recommend that we make that an amendment
Yes.
to the minutes.
okay.
So
I-
since I made the motion, I will also like to make an amendment to the minutes to include discussion regarding Mr. Armijo's contract salary.
Okay, I have an amendment on the floor. Is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
The amendment has been seconded. Discussion on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Abstentions. The amendment carries unanimously, so the main motion will have that amendment included.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none. I have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. The debate hasn't been exhausted. You have a roll call vote on the minutes, please.
Javier Perea,
Aye.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez,
Yes.
approved.
Motion carries unanimously. The minutes for June 28th, 2023 have been approved with an amendment. All right, item number 7, Executive Director's Report.
Good afternoon, David Armijo, Executive Director. Brief report, I only have 2 items today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the current efforts to approve the transportation appropriations budget for the U.S. government that will affect our funding for fiscal year 2024 and beyond. And then I'll talk a little bit about goals and objectives. This may be an item that we bring back to the board. I just want to give a listing of some of the things we're going to be working on in the coming year. So what makes this amendment, transportation appropriations bill interesting is that the Senate this past week took the bill that was initially provided by the Biden administration forward. That bill is different than the House bill, and so there will have to be a reconciliation between the two. However, the most interesting thing in the bill is not the big projects of high-speed rail or funding Amtrak or funding rail projects, but in fact, it's on my third bullet point. They're actually looking at funding the 5311 urban funds, suburban funds or rural funds that we have, and the 5310, which is the enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities at 100%. These are typically 50% or 80% capital, so to be able to have 100% funding, very similar to what went through 2-3 years ago with the CARES Act during the height of COVID, would mean that this would generate some additional funding for the district. We'd be able to amend our budget later in the year to look at what we want to do with these funds. So now the downside is it's 1 year. So you can't build a future on 1 year, but I think this would be something that we can come back to the board probably either late, well, we could do it in August if there's movement, and I can certainly let the board know, but most likely it'd be September or October. And then we would have to look at how that might affect our budget in the coming year. But at that point in time, we would certainly come up with some strategies, and we can have some discussion with the board on how we'd want to use those funds. One option, of course, would be that those funds could then be used to accelerate some of our capital projects. And of course, those take quite a bit of time. So even if we accelerated those projects in 2024, we may not see a benefit till 2025. So again, we'd have to put everything out there for discussion, both in operations, capital for the district, but it would certainly be a positive sign if we were to see this.
Mr. Chair, can I just add?
Sure.
Mr. Armijo, I think that's wonderful news. The only thing is with the federal government, everything is always delayed 2-3 years.
Yep.
If anyone understands that, it's Mayor Perez. So that's why I don't anticipate probably till 2024, 2025 that the funds would be available to the RTD. So just had to
We
throw
appreciate
that
that.
in.
Well, hopefully we'll
Appreciate your optimism, Mayor.
hopefully we don't
I
disagree.
don't
We
know
hopefully will
why
know
it
more in
takes
2
so
months.
long. Right, I mean, by the time we've put a plan together,
Yeah.
by the time they actually allocate us the money or like, the money's on the way, the project has already increased
The
twofold.
plan's outdated.
Right, and so, and the state's not too far behind either, the federal government, but, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful news, absolutely wonderful. I just don't anticipate
Right.
money coming forth in 2023.
Yes, thank you. So goals and objectives, I have 2 slides, and they're no particular order. I just wanted to just briefly go through some of the things that we're working on right now as we go into this year. We can have more discussion on this in future meetings. But obviously, and to pick up on Mayor Baraza, your comments are very clear. We've been working on the electric buses now for some time. And even though we got the grant in last June and the award in August, I was working with the New Mexico DOT on getting the funds programmed in the federal guidelines so we could draw on it yesterday. So you're correct. Started in 2022, we're now well into 2023, and we still don't have access to the funds, but we will have them within the month. So that's good news. But you're correct. It does take longer. What this will allow us to do is we just got some new buses recently, is we'll start to look at disposing some of the older buses. I was shocked to read one of our buses, I think it was bus number 3 or 5, has like 350,000 miles on it. I'm amazed that some of these buses are still running. If you think back to the days of Wayne Hancock in 2015, November, that bus is parked out front. It's now traveled, it's traveled far enough to get to the moon and not quite back. So it would be out there. We'll also be looking at executing other urban grant funds, some of those I just mentioned. And then we'll look at coordinating the City of Anthony's new program. I'm sorry that Mayor Murillo's not here because we had a great event with her last month. And so we're now working with them to perhaps even move our transit center from where it is in Anthony with shelters into that project. And so I'm working on a program to allow us to work with them and actually fund the shelters ourselves, program it, but actually let them design it and put it into their dynamic. So we'll start working on that elsewhere. I think that's going to be a good prototype for the county since we'll be putting more shelters in the county over the next couple of years as we get further along. And again, we're going to continue to investigate more passenger amenities and execute some of those. Employee training will become a bigger issue, especially as we start getting closer to the electric buses, both in maintenance and operations. Second slide on this. We'll continue to operate all of our local services, both intercity and rural, but we'll also begin to look at what it would take to go to Sierra County. I'll bring to the board at the next meeting what I think that route might look like and when we think we can do that. I will reopen discussions with the cities of Elephant Butte and the county of Sierra to see where they are on this project. And also the county, our county, Doña, because I'm going to need some political support and help as we go through this process. It may also require us to do some redesign of the Hatch route. We may be looking at bringing back part of the Garfield part of the service to make that connection between the two counties, Sierra and Doña to the north. We'll also look at the completing our acquisition of the Sunland Park facility and installing electric charging stations this year. We have a couple of smaller electric buses that we'll look at bringing in probably by the fall before the bigger buses come in next year. And then we'll look at where we can implement service recommendations for the 10-year plan. I threw this slide up there. This is actually from the 10-year plan because I know it's been 2 years since we looked at this, so what's in the plan? Well, technically, the plan had us planning to increase services in 2022 that we did not do. That would have increased the frequencies on the red and the turquoise. We couldn't do that because we didn't have the buses. Plus, really did not have the resources because our money was held up by the Federal Transit Administration. But those things are now changing, and that is something that we could bring back to the board here in a couple of months and see if there's an opportunity to do more with the fleet that we have, and we have the resources to do that. In addition to that, there was a look to connect, of course, Sierra County's on the list, and to connect the purple route, which comes into City Hall right now in Sunland Park, but actually would bring it straight into the west side coming up North Mesa. We might change the connections between the yellow and purple. Right now, the two routes actually overlap. So there's some inefficiencies there. So we might want to take a closer look at that. The 2025 schedule would look at bringing service in on Saturdays on some of our routes. And again, as I mentioned moments ago, if money starts coming our way, we might be able to move these services earlier than 2025. But again, we will not be programming any of that in the coming year until we know where we have the resources to do that. And that pretty much concludes what we have for this moment. So basically, at the moment, status quo. What we have now is what we have. We're not adding anything else until we see the money. Hopefully that goes consistent with board direction. And that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Sanchez.
Commissioner.
I did have some questions for the board as well as Mr. Armijo, and particularly on, the priorities, and then as he discussed within the kind of the looking forward 10-year plan. I number one, I would love, or at least I would like for us to explore the possibility of implementing zero fares across SCRTD. And doing that in conjunction with Roadrunner Transit so that at least in Doña County, we are providing free public transportation on fixed routes, no matter where you are, whether you're in, in City of Las Cruces, Sunland Park, up north in Hatch, or, those are the types of things I would like to see and how we get there. Obviously, I know the answer probably from David's going to be, we just need the money to make it up for in the budget. But I said, I would love, you know what I mean? I think that's what we would what I would like for us to look at and explore and figure out a plan to implement. The other thing on David had talked about possibly looking in 2025 for implementing Saturday service. And I think along with, once we get the funding that we're talking about in, I would like for us to consider doing a pilot project on one of the lines and seeing how it goes with Saturday service. I think it'd be curious to see, what kind of traction we could get. Obviously I would love for something like even the green line to be that, not just because it's in my district, but because I think, and maybe even the red line might be it, but the idea would be is that with people maybe not working, or not as many people working on the weekends, could we see people utilizing the service to access, the mall, the amenities in the city of Las Cruces, to, something like that, right? I'd just be curious to understand if what would ridership look like compared to a weekday on any one of those lines, so that, we could have that data point as we move forward and figure out, what are we going to do and how we're going to roll it out across the service area. So, but just my couple of thoughts. Like I said, I don't know if Mr. Amijo would comment on that, but like I said, those are two things that I think we should still investigate this year if we could.
Yes, if I may, this is David Armijo. Love to comment on that. So when you were describing that, I was remembering back to, I already said it once, I'll say it a second time, to Wayne Hancock. Wayne had actually thought of having a Saturday route that would connect the red and the purple to get you from downtown Las Cruces with multiple stops through the center of the core of Doña and getting all the way. And this is before we had the yellow, because the yellow does run on the weekends along with the silver. So if we added to that the green route, then it would actually be possible to go all the way from the top of Doña County to the southern sector, vis-a-vis Sunland Park, with connections to the west side of El Paso and downtown El Paso. I think that it wouldn't be a significant cost, but it would be a cost. But if we could do that for one day and capture the core of the day, I think that would be a tremendous benefit. And I think a lot of people would take advantage of that in the service area. I think that's something that people are looking at as far as service coverage. So certainly being able to do that before 2025 would be good as a target. I think that, and I'm fine with the revenues. I think the priority then comes back to the board. If we have the money available, then I think we talk about that. We talk about the Cerro County service that we've been trying to get done, and then we look at the finances. But I think it might be possible we can finance the free service ourselves without actually asking for a sponsor. And I think if we could do that from the funds that we've already gotten commitments from Doña County and the cities and so on, and then I think that would be a win for us. I think like I said, I think we'll know within 60 days.
Yeah. And Mr. Armijo and Mr. Chair, I wouldn't be, I can't speak for all of the county commission, but I would be open to figuring out how we, even though with, having the additional funds might make it a little easier, but I think, exploring a plan, even if it costs, or where we had some additional funds that could theoretically come from the county to support zero fares, I would be open to having that discussion. And then, like I said, just understanding how we get there. And then the other comment I was thinking, when we talk on the weekend lines, we may even have like an abbreviated or an express, kind of the way that I see it, right? The Ben Archer clinics might not be open on the weekends. Our community centers might not be open, but, if you could get, what I've seen anecdotally is people, especially around the holidays, right, is that people would ride the green line from Hatch into Las Cruces to go shopping. And so, what if we cut some of those lines and made it a little bit more abbreviated, And I think, like you said, maybe combining some routes for a special weekend route. I don't know. Like I said, I think there's some, the possibilities are there, but I would definitely love to figure out if we could, theoretically have some sort of pilot project if we could work that out. And heck, even during the summer now, I can imagine, what if we went up into Sierra County and people could ride SCRTD to Williamsburg and TRC and Elephant Butte and spend the weekend up there, and do something like that. I mean, I don't know, just some crazy ideas, but man, I think there's so much that we could, I guess, spitball and come up and figure out. I think it comes down to advertisement and getting some traction. But man, I'd definitely be open to hearing some ideas from the board and you, Mr. Amijo, and the staff. So, but anyways, I appreciate your input. And like I said, I'm open to hearing how we can, like I said, on the county, how we can help support.
David, this is Meiji Powie, and I do have a question. Are there certain groups of people like the disabled that already ride free?
No, only in Las Cruces, because Las Cruces has a free fare program going on right now that affects both their fixed route and their paratransit program. So, and their seniors. So that right now, that's a temporary thing. But traditionally, the seniors, or excuse me, the disabled have to pay twice the regular fare. So that's been waived for the time being.
Twice the regular fare?
Excuse me?
You said they have to pay twice the regular fare?
No, you're correct. You're wrong. The disabled have to pay, this is under the federal guidelines, so if they want to break the law, they can do that. Under the federal guidelines, the disabled, people with disabilities, have to pay twice the regular fare because the service they're getting is door to door. So no, they don't pay 50 cents. They're paying a discounted fare for the fixed route, but right now that's waived. Right now, nobody's paying anything in Las Cruces. And that's the same thing is true in El Paso. El Paso is double the fare. So, but on the other hand, Ms. Powie, Trustee Power, there are programs, and I am researching that in other parts of the country where they do provide, based on ability to pay, some discounts where that is waived. So
Right.
We're looking at that option as well. The irony is it would cost almost as much to fund that program with somebody managing it as it would be to just make the fares free. So in our case, it's probably doesn't make as much sense to do that. But that doesn't mean it doesn't make sense 10 years from now. So we are at least investigating that option.
Thank you.
Thank you for it's a good question. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just one comment is, I'm thinking, in order to increase ridership, is that we need to advertise more. I think we need to invest in advertising, whether it's through the television, radio, billboards. I think in order to try to reach the majority of residents or within Doña County, Sierra, excuse me, we need to really concentrate, excuse me, on advertisement, on promoting the RTD, making them aware. I know we have our flyers, but I think more recognition of it visually would help ridership. And through El Paso, so, coming on north would really be worth something looking into and putting some money into advertising.
We absolutely agree with that. We have two parts. I know that my staff is working on. We've drafted an RFP to look at providing advertising on the buses to generate some revenue, and then that revenue would be used for advertising. We're also looking at other ways of going beyond social media because we do some advertising there. But the biggest one we're going to roll out this fall will be the I forgot the word for it. They're the big signs that you see, gateway signs. So we're looking at putting gateway signs in all of our communities so that people, that's a stanchion where you'll see the sign that says, our organization, yeah, and then there's information on that. Over time, that's just like once we put the information on the buses, people begin to recognize it. So it's a stationary item, but it's repetitive. So that has its benefits too. But you're absolutely correct. At some point, doing, media, even in the movie theaters, the local theaters, Alan, you can put.
Right, Allen Theaters, correct?
They have the same ad over and over again.
Right.
So we could throw something in there. I wanted us to work with the universities and see if the community college would have something, or maybe the students could produce something for us.
That would be nice. And I know that in the town of Mesilla, we have a billboard coming in off of I-10 into Las Cruces, but we use regularly the one billboard right off of Avenida de Mesilla and Main Street. And we've noticed that when we do advertise our events, our community, we do see an increase of tourism in our community, and I attribute to that. We do the social media to the best of our ability, our website, but I think when people are stopped at the stop sign or traffic light, we're looking around, and I think it would really benefit
Yeah, it's a good idea.
RTD to do so.
Good. We'll work on that. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item number 8, under discussion resolution approving the disposition of obsolete property.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. I see Ms. Provengi's hand up
I'm sorry?
on the call. Ms. Provengi
Yes.
from the Mesilla Valley MPO had her hand
Yes,
up.
Oh, I'm
yes, can you
sorry.
hear me?
I couldn't see that on the, there we go. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
apologize.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is following up with Mayor Barraza's comments about advertising. I saw in the fiscal year 2024 goals, you said adding some amenities. What kind of amenities were you looking at adding? And do you think that's maybe that's something you can advertise, to throw into the advertisement to get to increase ridership? Yeah, what kind of amenities were you specifically looking at?
Well, yes, thank you. Again, David Armijo. So the amenities fall into a couple of categories. One is a simple category, which is benches and shelters. We've been doing that around the county. We'll continue to do that. But we're also been putting out, replacing our signage. And so the new signage go in are very similar to the ones in Las Cruces, where you have information on the signs, not just for the route, but for the company, the name, recognition that's out there, rather than a generic stop on a pole. And then the other part of that would also be to put information at certain locations. So like where there's a heavy load of riders, let's say City Hall for Sunland Park, or it could be over at the Mesilla Park, we can actually put an information sign there so people could actually get information on the route itself if you don't get it on the bus. So that those kind of things would be done as amenities. And then again, probably the stanchions that we would do. But we'd also be looking at other opportunities within the advertising realm of putting the ads on the buses. So even the buses themselves inside have ads space. We could put more information there. We find in historical numbers for transit, I know you're a planner, so with planning, we find that oftentimes our best people who refer people to ride the bus are the people actually riding the bus.
Okay, thank you. And then also another thing too is with advertising, because a lot of people use QR codes, you can also, maybe with the advertisement, you can use QR codes and link it directly to the website for routes as well. So it's not just a physical sign that they have to sit in front of, but it's something they can snap, look up, and then look on their phone as they're riding, or if they have to travel elsewhere. Or sit anywhere else.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We are using those on the schedules and we're using those on the website, but actually, we could actually add those to the buses themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Item number 8, discussion and resolution approving the disposition of obsolete property.
Ready? Good afternoon, members of the board. Sara Vasquez, for the record. And I'm just here to present the disposition policy. We work together with the New Mexico Department of Transportation, with their contractors, so that they can help us with the disposition policy to make sure we are under the regulations of NMDOT when it comes to dispose a vehicle that's been granted through them, or we're under regulations of the state whenever it's a purchase through the state. So basically, I would like to add that I stand for questions if you all read the policy or had a chance to take a look at it. We currently have 2 buses that we are in need of disposal. Yes.
If I may add, maybe I missed you saying that, but this policy was drafted by the New Mexico DOT, correctly? And
It's
been used by
basically
other
what
agencies.
they provide to the agencies, to the sister agencies, so that we can all pretty much dispose by the guidance of the NMDOT. Pretty much.
We also have buses that would be retired after the first of the year, so really you're looking at probably, what, 4 or 5 buses over the next 6 months?
For the next 6 months, yes.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 8. Madam Mayor?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-01.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
Second, Sanchez.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. Discussion by the board?
Okay.
Seeing none?
Mr. Chair, there's Ms. Provengi has her hand up.
I can't see the I can't
Oh,
see the
no, I just
monitor.
forgot.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay,
I just,
about
I
that.
just forgot to press the button. Sorry about that. There we go.
No problem. Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Majorie Powie, Ms. Powie,
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, but I keep muting myself because there's background, my cats are playing. So
okay,
yes.
thank you. Manuel Sanchez,
Yes.
thank you, passes.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Item number 8 has been approved. Item number 9, discussion of appointment of District Property Disposal Committee.
Yes. So along with the disposition policy, it's on section 8.0, where it says meeting of the district's property disposal committee. Basically where our chair will select 2 to 3 members of the board, just so that they physically review the disposal items before we we take action. So it's just basically creating the committee onto who would like to volunteer. And the buses, we have them in Sunland Park. It could be two members of the board or 3 if they wish. And then we will have a final say-so after that, whether to dispose or if they feel that we can still use the buses.
Is that a separate resolution? No.
It's in section 8.0, meeting of the district's property disposal, which says following receipt and review of the preliminary list, and upon the direction of the board chair, the executive director shall place an item appointment of the district property disposal committee on the agenda. And then the board chair shall solicit volunteers from the board at the board meeting to fill the roles of committee members. And like I said, it could be 2 or 3 that would like to just volunteer and basically inspect what we're trying to dispose to make sure.
So by when do we need that?
If we can pick the committee today or next board meeting, it's whatever you guys decide.
I think, Mr. Chair, if I may, just the way it's worded on the agenda, discussion of appointment, it doesn't take, and there is no action item. So, I mean, I've never heard of a committee to dispose of equipment. I don't know if your community has.
We don't have a committee either, but
It's
Aside.
unusual. I think this is something coming from the state.
yeah.
Correct.
Right.
And, you know, I've been doing this for a long, long time. I can tell you, I've never been in a transit agency where we've done this. I think it's probably a best practice that they recommend it, and maybe it's in our proposal, but whether we choose to do it or not, I think it would be, quite frankly, I
Yeah,
think,
'cause
I think
also
if you follow the bylaws, it's really the board's direction to myself and Adam. We're the two that are held
No,
accountable
I
to do this.
agree. And I mean, my recommendation would just for your committee to be your procurement officer, possibly the executive director, and the board chair to consist of the committee.
So if I were to recommend anything, and you're correct on the way that's worded, I would say that then by the direction of the board would be to appoint the committee, and that committee should be Adam and myself.
Okay. I mean, that would
Yeah.
be my
That's
recommendation.
consistent with the bylaws.
Right.
Yes, and we can definitely do the change as well. Ultimately, it goes before the chair and the executive director as per policy first. They make a decision whether to dispose first or not, and then pretty much it's like a committee. It's just
Hey.
formality.
Sorry.
So no other action needs taken on this. We can move on to the
Okay.
next one if you would like.
Okay, yeah,
agenda.
that works. I mean, and I can see, because it even mentions the pueblos and things like that.
We can always bring that back and amend it.
Okay.
This is Maisie Pally. They even talk about canine dogs in here. Why do they put that in with something like a bus? That doesn't even make sense.
Canine.
Where did you?
Yeah,
I didn't.
it's in there.
I don't know where she lived at.
Ms. Powey, this is David Armillo. We attempted canine dogs when I was in Dallas 30 years ago. It didn't go over well. They were removed, and the policy.
We can amend the whole paragraph for
Yeah, we'll come back and.
Okay, if you go
we have what we
down
need
to
for today. We
annotations.
can amend this and come back, make those changes.
Yeah. It's under the annotations where it talks about,
Yeah.
we don't have any dogs to dispose of.
Oh, my God.
We might be
Oh,
switching
my
to horses, I don't know.
This sounds like a city government thing, and maybe it got carried over, because cities do have K-9 units. I know I had a friend who was a K-9 unit director or manager for a number of years with the PD. All right,
Okay,
we'll
That
move on.
works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. So that discussion is done. Discussion, item number 10, discussion and resolution approving the amended drug and alcohol testing policy.
For the policy, for the drug and alcohol policy is basically also the same thing. We are under the recommendation of NMDOT contracted Russ Parrish. And he just basically wanted us to change on page 11 to add at or to the final sentence of paragraph 2 under the eye drug testing procedures, which has been done in the policy. And then he wanted to, for us to correct the page 26, the attachment A, just to identify the safety-sensitive positions, which at this point would be our drivers, dispatchers, and mechanics. And also, number 3 is just the comments on the medical review officer to make sure we had their training certificates provided in the correct number on page 27, which we already have. And the last one was the substance abuse professionals. We needed to get 2 new ones because the ones that we had previously were not responding to our emails or so. So I guess we needed to move forward, and we needed to look for somebody else. And I give props to Loretta because she spent a whole day trying to find some substance abuse professionals that were able to meet our needs as far as to have them in the policy. And now we even have Russ Paris recommending SCRTD talk to Loretta so that she can tell you which ones they're using now. So we became an example now. And that's basically all the changes that are recommended through the NMDOT as far as the drug and alcohol policy.
Mr. Chair?
Madam Mayor?
And I apologize, I missed part of that discussion. And has the attorney looked at this? I mean, do you normally send the revisions to any of our ordinance or bylaws or legal documents to the attorney for a review?
We do for stuff like the Federal Transit Administration properties and things like that. the number of organizational changes we get from the federal government on drug and alcohol in the state of New Mexico is so numerous that we would be spending a lot of time with the attorneys. But we can certainly do that. We do have an audit by the state of New Mexico in about 30 days, which will go over all this. So actually, when I was listening to this presentation, I was thinking, you know, we probably should have an actual presentation on the whole thing to the board, because it has morphed itself since the last time we did this, which has been more than 2 years. So what I would suggest, to follow your thoughts, is that we can go ahead and get this approved today, but let me send this over to our attorneys and just let them take a look at it. I am in discussion right now with other agencies in the state of New Mexico, because when we've worked with our local attorney, his staff doesn't have the expertise in some of this. And so I've been looking at other agencies that are doing this, in North Central up north, or Albuquerque, and some of those. I think, well, maybe we should find an attorney that is already dealing with all the federal guidelines. I've also talked to the federal attorney we have, which we've been using on the legislative front for Sunland Park, but unfortunately that attorney is not registered in the state, so they're limited in the direction they can give us. So we have to have somebody that's a New Mexican attorney to do this. So we're kind of, you see where we're at, we're kind of caught 22. We've got a great attorney locally, but he doesn't have the expertise. So then for him to get up to speed, which is what he had to do working with Adam and I in the FDA work a few months ago, that staff member had to work with us over a period of time to be able to help us get the documents approved for the Federal Transit Administration.
And just, I mean, kind of off subject on this is that, have we ever gone out to RFP for attorney fees?
I'm laughing because we're recently trying to do auditors. It's difficult. It's a great idea. In fact, it kind of is consistent with what I'm talking about now. I've identified 2 or 3 people in the state, and so it would make sense to put together an RFP and just put somebody out there and then put them on contract. Now, as a services contract, if I understand the rules in New Mexico, services contract like legal services, you don't necessarily have to procure those.
I think it's, I mean, if we're not going to spend, we haven't spent upwards of 60,000.
No,
So you don't have to.
no, you don't have to.
But if you spend upwards of
On
60.
legal services, you're saying,
No.
we haven't
Yes.
spent more than,
We haven't spent more
but
than
I
10.
think as the RTD continues to get additional funding and these requirements are required by either state or federal lines, it's good to have an attorney on hand that can, take care of your legal work, but also can read agreements, ordinances, or bylaws.
Yep.
And that way you're not having to go out searching for an attorney that can do all that. And,
Great idea.
I mean, that's what the town of Mesilla does. We RFP for an attorney that takes care of our agreements, our MOAs,
But you
just
may-
everything, that takes care of
I
everything.
absolutely agree, but you may have hit the spot. Our numbers are so low, that's why we're not getting bids.
Oh, I see.
And so we might need to craft this together for a number of things to build it up, and say that it's going to be a minimum of 20 grand or something like that over the next 3 years.
Right.
Then perhaps we would get the
Well,
interest.
and with our attorney, we pay him on an hourly basis. They bill us on an hourly basis. It's
Yep,
not
same thing.
probably like the city of Sunland Park has an attorney employed that you pay, you don't?
No, we have contract.
You contract with them also, so it's based on
We're
it.
not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah,
Almost.
on an hourly rate, and so that's been beneficial, and there's years that what we pay the attorney is high, but then other years it's lower. It just depends on activity going on in the community, but I think as the RTD continues to grow and more, and additional funding becomes available, it might be to the best interest to look into RFPing out for
we can
attorney
look at that.
services, and that way staff doesn't have to try to decipher, and yourself, all the rules and regulations, and we can hire an attorney to do so.
Yeah, okay, great idea.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Mr.
So
Chairman?
going back to the drug policy, so what you have put together in your drug policy, the amendments that you have, I guess, revisions, you all are very comfortable with?
Yeah.
Okay. And based on that, I can make a motion to approve that resolution,
I'm like, I just can't find it.
amending the drug and alcohol testing.
Did I miss the resolution?
It's behind the agenda and after the minutes. It's resolution number FY 24-02.
Okay.
It's on page 14.
Oh, there it is. You're right. All right. I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman. And also, when it's appropriate, I also wanted to have a comment.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Discussion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add, with the suggestion of Mayor Barraza, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, so Ms. Provengi, please forgive me here. But given that Mayor Barraza, I wanted to see what your thoughts were. We were talking about having legal representation. I know we're in the process right now with the Mesilla Valley MPO of updating the JPA in hopefully with the steps of moving to where the MPO is independent outside of the city of Las Cruces. And so I would believe that maybe they would be looking for legal services as well. And so maybe, understanding the concerns that Mr. Amijo brought up with the requirement of a certain number of hours that would be necessary, perhaps it would maybe make sense that if when we put out a bid, if we were to put out a bid, that for legal services, that maybe, we might look to possibly team up with the Mesilla Valley MPO if they have a similar issue, to where between the two organizations, maybe having some sort of agreement to share or even just combined with legal services of an attorney, that might make sense. But like I said, I know maybe I'm speaking too soon with that, but it was just a thought that came across your mind based off of your suggestion, Mayor.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that, but I'm gonna
May I make? Oh, sorry.
I'll entertain a brief comment on that, but I know we're off topic. So I'll let you comment on that, because I don't want to go too much into that conversation.
Yes, Katerina Provengi here with the Mesilla Valley MPO. Currently, we're still looking for attorneys, but I can't really speak too much on that. If there are any questions, please forward those to Andrew Ray.
Correct.
That works. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other discussion on the drug testing policy?
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
She's muted.
But my animals are being obnoxious, yes.
thank you. Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 10 has been approved. Item number 11, discussion and resolution approving the FY24 Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan.
I see.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Adam Shea, Finance Officer for South Central Regional Transit District. First item I'd like to discuss is the ICIP, or the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan for fiscal years 25 through 29. This was on deadline a couple weeks ago as we are a special district. The items that are include fleet conversion to electric, purchase of the Sunland Park facility, the Anthony facility refurbishing, purchase of buses, and the procurement or for the replacement of the current fleet, and a van pool expansion. These particular items are listed in the ICIP, and the presentation this afternoon is to seek approval for these particular projects to go forward for these particular years. Oh, I'm sorry.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, Mayor Barraza making that motion.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
Second, Sanchez.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. Discussion by the board.
Mr. Chair, the only comment I have are, these are items that we have been discussing throughout the year. And so I can't think of anything else that we will want to delete or add.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anyone from the public wishes to address or comment on this item? Seeing and hearing none. I guess we've exhausted all debate. We have a roll call to the matter.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Motion on the floor?
Motion passes.
See, yeah, you made it.
Losing my mind.
It was made by you and seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. All right, motion carries unanimously. Item number 11 has been approved. Item number 12, discussion and resolution approving FY '23 end-of-year fixed assets.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The following is a requirement for our auditing as well as for the state and MDOT to approve the current fixed assets for the South Central Regional Transit District. The attachment is listed. Those items that are listed in yellow are part of the disposal at this point, and you will notice under depreciation fiscal year 2023, amounts are zero, primarily because the value has already been expensed. So that particular disposals, they're listed, but they're of zero value anyway. The major fact is that there were 2.782 million in fixed assets of initial value. After depreciation, we have a total of 2.115 million in fixed assets after depreciation. What this request is approval of these fixed assets so that we can pass along to our auditors.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 11.
Mr. Chair,
Madam Mayor?
I make a motion, we approve resolution FY 24-04.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza. Is there a second?
This is Meiji Powie. I'll second.
Motion has been seconded. Discussion by the board. Seeing and hearing none. May I have a roll call to the matter, please?
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes unanimously. Item number 11 has been approved. Item number 12, discussion and resolution approving FY '23 end of year. No, but I'm sorry. That was item number 12 was approved. Right. I didn't put my check mark next to it.
Creature.
Item number 13, discussion and resolution approving the fourth quarter adjustment to the FY '23 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The following is a request to adjust the budget by moving funds from one account to another to cover overages in those particular accounts. Of course, the net amounts to zero. But the detail behind what those adjustments are up on the screen currently. You'll notice that taking about $21,000 of salaries or wages expense that has not been expensed and moving them down into the other accounts will provide clearing of those particular accounts that were overages. Again, the net is $0 and would bring up to date the actual balance And of course, in the next presentation would be the actuals of the financials. This adjustment was after the actuals were applied, but because of that, there were certain items that were overages, and this is to seek to adjust those to zero. Are there any questions? This is again on the expenditures that I'm talking about.
Mr. Chair, the only question I have is, now that I know we have year-end adjustments to make, my only question is, seeing how the revised budget totals had changed, are you looking at what was overspent for the initial budget and the amendments we have to make throughout the year? Have you addressed those needs in the current budget?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that was my only question.
Is there a second page to this?
I'm sorry?
Is there a second page to this?
There is another page. The next page has to do with the revenue. There is an adjustment on the table for a credit of the revenue stated in the amount of $58,903.40. This amounts to various adjustments in the submission of the Texas 5307, as well as an increase in the bus fares that was collected throughout the year. We budgeted, of course, $44,000. We collected over $55,000. The New Mexico Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is an agency we've been working with to assist their clients in obtaining monthly passes on the buses. There was a $60,000 commercial loan that was necessary to accomplish continued operations, primarily because of our lack of the funds received but submitted through the Texas FTA. Finally, there is a $55,830 amount that is an increase in miscellaneous and other income, primarily, or these were insurance claims that we had received placed under other income. Are there any questions?
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 13.
13.
I think there was one more page to that.
Is there?
Yes.
That's
Oh, it is.
capital.
Yes, there was. And this was just an adjustment from the capital page to the revenue page of the Texas 5307 funds.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, so basically, on the revenue page, we received additional funds, increasing the overall revenue or decreasing?
Basically what it is it was decreasing the revenue amount, but increasing the capital portion. A portion of that went to capital, yes.
Okay, understood.
At this moment, I entertain a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Madam Mayor?
Nora Barraza making a motion to approve Resolution FY 24-05.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second, Sanchez.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes?
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item 13 has been approved. Item 14, discussion and resolution approving the fourth quarter financial report, FY 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following is the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2023 financials. The starting off with our cash balance. Fortunately, I did not include that page in this. I apologize for that, but the cash balance starting off on hand of $68,900.20. Next is the,
Mr. Shea, can we put that on the screen, please?
unfortunately, I did not include that in this
Okay,
particular attachment. I apologize.
that's okay, thank you.
The $68,900.20?
$68,920, or $900.20.
Okay, what page are we looking at? Where do you see that amount?
Well, no, he doesn't have it on there.
Oh, okay, but it's not on the printout either.
Pardon me?
That amount is not on this printout.
I included it on my printout,
Oh,
but I
gotcha.
forgot to
Okay,
include it in the
okay.
attachment.
Okey-doke, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The next page has to do with the expenditures. The expenditures, the items to point out is that of the entire budget of $2,152,236.64, $2,121,517.60 was expensed, which was about 98.6% of the entire budget, leaving a balance of about $30,000 that was not used.
That's not bad. It's not off by that much.
Keeping it close to the vest?
You see revenues.
Yes, sir. Well, that's the thing. It's looking at revenues and everything, 91.1% was either billed or received. The majority of it being billed because unfortunately, we still haven't received it yet. And that left a balance of about $311,842.22. Majority of it to be carried over into, $168,716.21 to be carried over into the new year. That has to do with the CARES rural and inner city funding for the remainder of the current grant, as well as the $135,000 that is remaining outstanding, not billed yet through the Texas 5307 funds for fiscal year 2022.
If I may add, so kind of follow up from our discussion about a month ago, where I was saying where the money's coming and going. We had discussions yesterday with the Federal Transit Administration, Dave Bartles. We are now, I'd like to think we're in the last leg of the marathon run. So this is the first time he's put it in writing. He's put it in writing.
That's true.
That he believes that next week we'll be able to close the loop on the remaining items. And then they can now move to the next step. There's 3 more steps in the approval. So the internal part should be completed next week, and then that then goes to the Labor Department to review. Now, it's an interesting dynamic because we don't have labor, so the Labor Department basically has no one to call locally. So their review should be fairly short, but nonetheless, they will review it. So he believes that we should be in a position to get a final approval on the application by the 3rd week. It's very specific, 3rd week of August. Now, why I bring that up to this point, that $311,000 you see as a balance, Adam will be rolling that over into the new fiscal year, I guess, somehow, I guess, as we take delivery of those funds. The first order is what, 294, something like that?
Right. Plus the amended amount that we put through. So in actuality, we have submitted over 500,000 of the 696 expected just for that fiscal year.
But it's all expended, I mean, it's all accounted for.
All but the 135,000, yes.
All
And
except 135,000.
right, and that 135 is listed under the capital because we anticipate purchasing a bus, for instance, a service truck, that sort of thing.
But the 294,000 is soft money. It's actually
Good point.
money that we're getting reimbursed on. So that money does come in a check because we've already expended it through other services, other forms, not federal funds. So that would mean our local monies. So that would allow us to put those monies in the bank.
Right.
So that's why I was saying come September, we'll have a discussion with the board And Adam will be able to look, maybe the first quarter won't be to October, but even September, he can perhaps provide some guidance as to what does this mean for our current budget? Because these are monies that we were due over a year ago.
Okay.
The rainy day is coming.
So I'll have. a
The
couple
rainy day
questions.
fun.
Of course, I would have a couple of questions. So I understand, and it's very difficult for us because through the state, our fiscal year runs from July to June. Federally, it runs, is it October to September?
correct.
So it makes it very confusing for us as to the funding. But I understand the money that we're going to carry over, the majority of it is already accounted for, and then we should have 135,000. Now, is that from federal or state?
That is Federal Transit Administration funds, yes.
Okay, good. Now, the bottom question is, do we currently have money in the bank to pay for our bills?
Yes.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, we do currently have funds in the account to pay our bills, and we have been able to bring everything up to date.
okay. And without having to borrow from, on a loan, or did we have to?
No, we had borrowed from the loan. The good part about it is that we should be able to pay it back very shortly.
Oh, okay.
100%.
I think that. Okay.
In fact, that is in the new budget, but for, as far as the expenditures for the current budget, the only other thing that I would point out is under the capital, only 23.7% was either billed or received. And that is a good portion of our budget. And considering the amount that we had under our capital, it was because of the $5 million that we'd received at late last year for the purchase of the Sunland Park facility, the conversion over to electric, all of that has yet to be expensed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And that concludes as far as the fourth quarter fiscal year 2023. Are there any questions?
Do I have a motion on the floor?
No.
No? At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 14.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve resolution FY 24-06.
I have a motion on the floor, made by Mayor Barraza, to approve resolution FY 2406. Is there a second?
Second, Sanchez.
Motion has been seconded. Discussion by, any other discussion by the board? Seeing and hearing none. Let me have a roll call on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes?
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 14 has been approved. Item number 15, discussion and resolution approving the FY 24 annual budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the following is the presentation for the fiscal year 24 budget. We have been able to nail down, I believe, a little bit more firm as far as our position under the expenditures. To point out, number one is that under personnel services, and this includes the employee benefits, it would be an increase of 6.8% over the last year's personnel portion of the budget. And all this accommodates the 5% that the board approved last month, but this was taken into account the new employee bid for the routes that we are going to have going forward.
Repeat that again?
Okay, the employee bid happens typically twice a year, once in February, once in July. We are currently working up the new bid, or for the upcoming bid for the employees. These expenditures are based on that particular bid.
Can you explain to me employee bid? I don't think I've ever heard
Just say
that.
salaries.
sorry,
So the bid is salaries, so it's their salaries for the work that they're going to do. So again, David Armijo, Executive
sorry.
Director, I'm picking up on this. So the bids are done on a regular basis. What we end up doing is we try to take into account the mileage, the service hours and all that. We have been installing or injecting additional, some breaks and lunches and some other things. So that's added about 1% to this. That's why he's saying this bid is a little heavier than the previous bids. so that when we add in that cost, that's what bring us up closer to 7%. So it's a little bit of inflation, but it's a small percentage of the total.
Okay, I still don't understand.
Okay, the employee bid is for the routes that are driven.
Yes.
Based on seniority, the employees are able to choose which route they want.
Oh,
And they choose
okay.
how many hours they work.
Exactly, because each route varies in the number of hours completed.
Okay, but don't they still get the same percent, the same amount hourly?
No, it's all dependent upon their seniority, how long they've been with the organization, what duty it is that they
So
do.
you have like a salary schedule that they move up steps?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So
In
it's a
fact, we have
combination
made
factor.
significant strides in improving that for our employees. Okay?
Adam, this is Meiji Powie. You said, okay, I think you said 6.9%, but on the piece of paper I'm looking at, it says 7.3.
Mine does too.
Is it 7.3?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine does
Oh,
too.
oh, oh,
It
think
says-
you're looking at
But
the
when you
I'm looking at the
calculate
old
it,
one.
but when you calculate it, it
I'm
does say
looking at the
6.8.
old one based on that. The new one is what is shown on the screen now. I do apologize. I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, and that's why I couldn't.
I
figure
didn't
out-
mean, I did not mean to confuse you. No, the amount is 7.3% over last or fiscal year 23's
Right.
personnel budget. That includes employee benefits.
Okay.
Okay, the overall for expenditures of fiscal year 24 over fiscal year 23 is 10.6%. We did make increases. There are several projects that we are going to be taking on. Conversion to electric, for instance, adding in new softwares to help our agency run more efficiently, et cetera. This amounts to 10.6% increase over the previous fiscal year.
Okay. So just to clarify, Mr. Chair, if I may, for my own pea brain here. So we are giving all the employees a 5% increase. Those that are seniority based on the schedule, they are, I guess, another step, depending on the years of service, get a little bit more because of their seniority status.
Actually, it is based on time that they have been here. Yes, so there is a seniority status aspect, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, but they can bid for, they can bid for a lower, a smaller route. Does that
That's correct.
Mean, that they're gonna get that higher, they get a higher rate, but a lower.
That for sure no less than 5%. Right.
Correct, yeah.
You have that look on your face like, yeah.
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
Well, the 5% is based on their rate of pay.
Okay,
Yeah,
correct.
that's
Okay,
the rate of pay.
but the amount of time is based on the route they choose.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard of that before. This is, but of
Really?
course,
Okay.
we don't
I thought it was a common
have bus routes
practice.
in our municipality, so, okay, okay. So what is the highest percent that an employee could get?
No, they're getting
Still
5%,
Just
They're
5.
getting 5%?
Just the 5%,
Okay,
yes.
but they can work more hours.
gotcha.
Right,
Okay,
thank you.
okay.
You-
That very much simplified it. Thank you. Yes, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
The amounts for revenue over fiscal year 23, it's I want to make sure I did it right, 5.9% increase.
Right.
And these, again, are based on the actual projects and programs, grants that we have booked and are receiving, or will receive. With regard to capital, it's a decrease of 12.9%. And again, with this here, we are going off of actuals that we are able to secure, specifically having to do with the purchase of the Sunland Park facility. A lot of that amount has to do with that particular project and how much we've been able to secure for it.
Mr. Chair, I just one last question.
Madam Mayor?
Just want to So based on our budget, our final fourth quarterly report, our final report, in your new budget, you have addressed all those increases that we're not having as many budget adjustments, hopefully, throughout the year, because now you've made those adjustments in those particular categories to accommodate what we estimated for this year.
That's the hope.
Okay,
Well, I
Very
mean,
good.
that's
yeah, that's a
I
whole,
mean,
yeah.
because even, I mean,
Yeah, no, I understand, but there were some that were significant, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that I just want to make sure that we have enough money to cover those ongoing expenses and not under budgeted. Okay.
all right.
We're good.
At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve item number 15.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve Resolution FY 24-07.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barraza to approve Resolution FY 2407. Is there a second?
This is Meiji. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Meiji.
That's all right.
All right. So was that a second by trustee Powie?
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing and hearing none. Can I have a roll call vote on the matter, please?
Javier Perea,
Aye.
Nora Barraza,
Yes,
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez,
Yes.
motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 15 has been approved. All right.
It's a long agenda.
Board comments,
Mr. Chair?
Madam Mayor?
The only comment, I'd like to thank Mr. Armijo, Mr. Shea, and all the staff for being patient with me and answering all the questions, but more importantly is being able to, if they didn't have the answer, they researched and brought it back to us. And I sincerely appreciate that and all that they do for the RTD. And when I first started with the RTD, where we are now, it's just phenomenal. I mean, Mr. Armijo has done a fabulous job of securing the funding to get this project started and going and continues to make progress on it. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all. Yes.
By myself.
Is
Yes.
David all alone?
Thank you.
So all the pressure was just on you, David. All right. Any other board comments? All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
sorry, I just, I want to echo the sentiments of Mayor Barraza because I think, since I've joined the county commission and then, served my first term on the SCRTD board, there's been a significant amount of growth we've seen, right? And I think we've seen it in many ways with the SCRTD. We've seen the growth on the routes. We've seen the service area. We've seen the budget increase. We've seen the expansion into electric buses. And I know we're almost there, but you know what I mean? It's just like in the last 4 years, there's been a lot of movement. And I hope that we don't get used to be, to this, because I want us to continue to figure out how do we grow, how do we get better. And I know that was like some of the discussion in the priorities, but it is nice to occasionally take a look behind and see where we came from and where we're at, and truly appreciate where we're at. And I think, like I said, there's so much more that I hope that we do, but definitely kudos to the SCRTD and to the continued growth that we'll continue to have. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mr. Armijo. Thank you to all your staff, and looking forward to this exciting fiscal year. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I echo that too, but I also want to recognize the county for its support of the transit district, because they are the biggest player here. And without the county support, this would be almost impossible. So, if you can relay that to the commissioners, I'd really appreciate that. But of course, the staff the staff's work is imperative for its success, and your support and the county support is also key. So thank you, Commissioner. All right. On that happy note, ladies and gentlemen, I do have a 2:54 p.m. If there's no objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you. Everyone take care.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Stay cool if you can.